Hello folks, it's bank holiday weekend, straight into the car news for you. UK faces epidemic of young uninsured drivers. This is from Auto Express. Number of young people convicted of driving without insurance has tripled since 2021 due to skyrocketing premiums. Something else we should always bear in mind when we're talking about skyrocketing premiums is insurance premium tax. That's something that the government's put up and up and up over the years. I think when I started in the industry it was about 3% and it's currently 12%. So premiums going up only help the government because they get more tax from you. Young drivers pose a massively higher risk than people of my age. Actually, payouts for accidents involving young drivers, 74% higher, drivers between 17 and 20 than they are for someone between 46 and 50. And that's always been the case. Young drivers have always paid a lot more, but with insurance premiums being so ridiculous at the moment, obviously that's just magnified. And yes, it's not just young drivers that are finding insurance premiums unaffordable. It's normal working people as well. And a lot of people are choosing to drive without insurance. That's ridiculous. That puts the insurance price up for everyone else. A significant part of your insurance premium is paying for uninsured drivers, so keep that in mind. But it's a bit of a fool's errand, really, because almost every police car's got ANPR cameras on it now, speed cameras, everything else that's going on. You just don't get away with driving without insurance anymore. Like, not for a long period of time. 99% of people driving without insurance will get nicked. 6 points on your license, big fine. Who needs it? And obviously, if you're a young driver and you get 6 points on your license, you have to do a retest. So that's not cracking either, is it? Unfortunately, folks, if you can't afford to insure a car, you can't afford to own a car. Maybe get yourself a car that you can afford to insure, or get yourself a moped, because they're still pretty cheap to insure. In relative terms. UK self-driving car revolution incoming. New law allows autonomous vehicles by 2026. A new law is set to bring self-driving cars to UK roads in 2 years and puts responsibility in the hands of manufacturers if there's an accident. So a little bit of buck pass in there, but the manufacturers will obviously need to be insured up to the hilt for that themselves. Therefore, these autonomous driving cars I'd expect to be pretty blooming expensive. They will still need a person to give inputs, so much like we've seen in Teslas and things over the years, if you take your hands off the wheel for too long, it will give you a couple of warnings and then it completely turns off the functionality, and it can turn it off for like a week by way of punishment. So if you never touch the wheel at the moment, it will switch itself off eventually. Obviously in future, they're talking about having cars without steering wheels or with optional steering wheels. But for now, you still will have to give the car inputs. What do you think about this autonomous driving? There is a school of thought that says it will be much safer for everyone because computers are going to be controlling all of it, and therefore it'll be impossible to have a collision. But I actually like driving my car. I don't want a computer to drive it for me. Late May bank holiday to bring pre-COVID levels of traffic chaos. Must admit, like I went to a drive day at Millbrook this week. A video of the Ioniq 5s up on my channel, and a few of us got together the night before that. Alex came over from sort of Tewkesbury area, Tom from Manchester, Dave from over in Lincolnshire, and 3 of the 4 of us got stuck in horrendous traffic. I'm sure there are loads of reasons for it, but our roads simply cannot cope with the number of cars on them. I don't know. I think travel very, very early in the morning if you want to go anywhere. Otherwise, you could be sat in a significant amount of traffic. Coming in hot, first look at the new Mini Cooper 𝙇𝙄𝙁𝙁𝙄 hot hatch. The souped up version of the new Mini Cooper will be offered in petrol or electric power, and it's going to be competing in the 24 Hours of Nürburgring endurance race on the 1st of June. As you'd expect with the 𝐺𝑠 version, it's going to be more aggressively styled. You've got big flared wheel arches. What you might not expect though is that you're not going to be able to get it with a manual gearbox. It's going to be automatic only. 250 bhp we're thinking, and a little car like that's going to be awesome. And the electric Mini Cooper is going to have about 250 miles of range, but I would expect the higher powered 𝐺𝑠 version will be a bit shy of that, maybe around about 230, might be more like it. No mention of pricing or anything yet, but I'm sure that'll come in the fullness of time. Greedy fuel retailers double diesel profit margins instead of cutting prices. RAC Fuel Watch says that the average price of petrol stands at $1.50 a litre, while it's $1.57 for diesel. If retailers were passing on costs fairly, drivers should be paying $1.45 a litre for both. By the way, I stopped at a service station yesterday and put some petrol in the Hyundai i20 that I've had this week, and it was $1.73 a litre for petrol. That was at Fleet Services. So thanks, Fleet Services. Great deal. Cheap EV charging comes to public charge points with a new plunge pricing app. Octopus plunge pricing events promise to save electric car drivers an average of £6.50 per charge. So this is if you've got the Octopus Electroverse card or app. I've got both. I'll put my link to it in the video description actually, because if you sign up using that link, you get a £5 credit straight away, and I get a £5, so that's two happy people. What it is just a charge card. You can use it at loads of different public charging points. For me, I've got it primarily so I don't have to have 6 million different apps. I can just use that Octopus thing. You can have it come out of your bank account or just go onto your electricity bill, for example. So I do that, but they've now got these plunge pricing events, and it'll be certain times of the day at certain charges. It'll just be a lot cheaper if you use your Octopus card. I had one flash up earlier actually. The lower charging rates, which range between 15 and 45% cheaper per kilowatt hour, are being offered at times when there's an excess of renewable energy being stored on the grid, such as when it's sunny or windy, because renewable energy mostly is coming from the sun and the wind in this country. The firm says it's possible that drivers may even be paid to charge up their cars if electricity wholesale prices go negative in the future. While Octopus already introduced plunge pricing on some of its home tariffs way back in 2018, the Electroverse app allows EV drivers to access and pay for charging on many of the UK's biggest networks such as Ionity, Shell Recharge, Osprey and Instavolt. Octopus says the app gives access to more than 700,000 EV chargers across the UK and Europe. New tech to crack down on drivers using stealth plates to avoid fines. Now, a man hiding in a van and taking a picture of your car is of course not illegal, but having something on your car that may prevent him from doing that is illegal. Stealth plates, also known as ghost plates, employ special reflective coating in order to avoid detection by ANPR. And ANPR, don't forget, is used for things like insurance. It's used for 𝘼𝙁𝙁𝙄𝙇𝙄𝙼𝙐 zones. It's used for driving in bus lanes, all that kind of stuff. So people are buying these plates for about a tenner, sticking them on the car, and it's making it more difficult for the police. Wolverhampton City Council is now the first local authority to introduce a new technology which can detect these illegal plates. Drivers caught with them fitted to their cars are in line to receive a £100 penalty charge notice. Councillor Craig Collingwood, Cabinet Member for the Environment and Climate Change, says Wolverhampton Council is leading the way as the first council investing in state-of-the-art technology to deter and detect offenders. New Kia EV3 is a £30,000 electric car with a 372-mile range. Kia expands its electric lineup with the EV3, taking plenty of inspiration from the flagship EV9. So let's have a look at it, and then let's have a look at some of those numbers. I mean, that's a cool looking thing, I think. I really like the EV9, as you probably know if you watched my video on it. Interior is very reminiscent of the EV9 as well. And I think that really does look cool. It's got that sort of Tonka toy appeal, which I'm quite into. But this is the key bit here, look. £30,000 with a 372-mile range. That will be incredible if that actually happens when the car's released. I've got my doubts, to be honest. I would suggest there's probably going to be a much smaller battery version that will be 30 grand, and 372-mile range version will be probably 40, 45 plus. That's my hunch, but let's wait and see. It's only marginally larger than the Nero. Kia names cars like the ID3 Cupra Born, Volvo EX30, Renault Megane E-Tech and Smart Number 1 as rivals. And while pricing hasn't been announced, we expect it to start from around 30,000. So the 30,000 thing could be a complete red herring, so I suggest we wait and see. But if it is a car with that much range for that much money, ooh, that's interesting. New 2024 Audi S3 finally available to order with 328 horsepower and a £47,000 starting price. I mean, 47 grand is crazy. I mean, it's got all the performance in the world, and I've got no doubt we'll see plenty of them on the road. But turbocharged 2-litre 4-cylinder, 328 horsepower, 420 newton meters of torque, 0 to 62 in 4.7 seconds. 47 grand upwards. What do you think of that, folks? However, if you go for the standard A3, we're going to be looking at pricing from £28,000 as battle restarts with BMW and Mercedes, they're saying here. The saloon's going to start from 29.5 grand. I love the A3. I've had I make 3 or 4 of them. They were all company cars for me, and I did probably a combined 300,000 miles in those cars at least, and never missed a beat. Not once did I have to take one into a dealership for anything other than a service. No issues with them whatsoever. Brilliant little cars, and yeah, I think it'll do well. I hope it does well anyway. I think hatchbacks and saloons have still got a place on the roads. We don't all need an SUV. When is a pothole not a pothole? Inconsistent council repair policies make a bad situation worse. Now, I'm recording this on Friday, the 24th, and I think tonight on Channel 4 there's going to be a Dispatches with Ginny Buckley. So if you haven't seen that yet, go and check it out. And it's something along the lines of, you know, the motorist is under attack. That's sort of the theme of this episode of Dispatches. I'll be watching it because it sounds quite good. Now, 206 councils have got jurisdiction over the roads, and roughly a third of them say they'll only fix a pothole if it reaches a certain width or depth. However, these parameters differ from council to council. That seems bananas in the first place. Most say it has to have a minimum depth of 4 centimetres, but others, such as Nottingham, Thurrock and Warwickshire, say it's got to be 5 centimetres deep before they'll consider filling it in. 5 centimetres is not insignificant. That is an alloy wheel ruined at that point, and it's going to do a bit of damage to your shocks as well. In some cases, such as with authorities in Buckinghamshire, Stockport and Devon, a pothole must be at least 30 centimetres wide, roughly the size of an A4 sheet of paper, as well as 4 centimetres deep before they decide to act. So that's huge. I mean, that's taking you off a bike well before it gets to 30 centimetres wide. At the other end of the scale, 29% of councils don't even publish what perimeters are in place before they fix, while 37% say they take a risk-based approach, what they define as a pothole, or what they define as a pothole that actually needs to be repaired. It's terrible. You know, someone needs to get a hold of our roads. They are falling to bits all over the place. I drove up the M3 a couple of days ago, and there are massive potholes in the M3, let alone on side streets. And as you saw in the video I did, a bit of a ranty video in my very local area, the roads were resurfaced and they decided to give us some new potholes, which was very, very nice of them. I thought I really did appreciate that. What are the roads like where you live? Do you think this is good enough? At the moment, I think the fact that we have all these different levels of government and budgets assigned here and then not taken here or rediverted here, it's just all broken. And I don't think a general election will make any difference, if I'm completely honest. Free private fuel station with your Bugatti. Hypercar brand vows to stick with petrol long term. Bugatti's got no intention of vacating the petrol car space in favour of pure EV power, and it's coming up with some novel solutions for fueling future cars. 𝘼𝙁𝙁𝙄𝙇𝙄𝑼𝙏, who's the CEO of Rimac, and Rimac obviously owns Bugatti now, has said that I don't see any reason not to make them beyond 2035, internal combustion engines, he means. We've developed a completely new engine and we want to use that for a while. I read the regulations and I don't see a reason why it would be impossible. The headlines say combustion engine cars will be banned from 2035. But if you read the fine print, it doesn't say that anywhere. You can still build them, but there might be some penalties, is what he's saying. And when challenged about, well, where are people going to get the fuels for these, he added, you could make some beautiful Bugatti fuel stations for the homes of owners using synthetic fuels. What it is to be rich, folks. Polestar 3 specs details and cheaper single motor version. The upcoming all-electric sporty SUV is already sold out for 2024, but the new model adds extra affordability. Previously, we've just heard about this being a dual motor car, but they've now announced a single motor long-range version. Polestar says the rear-wheel drive single motor car will launch in 2024, and we expect it to undercut the current car's starting price of almost £76,000. Orders for the Polestar 3 have already opened for the launch edition, although Polestar says its latest car is sold out until 2025. Crazy performance in this thing, 483 horsepower, 0 to 60 time of 4.9 seconds. And if you want to drop an extra $5,500 on it, you can get the performance pack that takes the power output up to 510 horsepower and drops the 0 to 62 time or 0 to 60 time to 4.6. On to Autocar now, and the Aura 03, or the Funky Cat, is now finally getting Apple CarPlay. I had a first edition of this in for review when they were absolutely fresh as a daisy, and we were told, you know, it's going to get Apple CarPlay very, very soon, and it's taken 18 months, but it is now there. It will, however, require a trip to a dealership to get it added, but it will be added free of charge. Car makers slash EV prices by as much as 14 grand to boost demand. Autocar finds makers are offering contributions of up to £14,000 as demand in private EV sector falters. And why wouldn't it falter? Why wouldn't demand for new EVs in the private market falter? EV demand in fleet, salary sacrifice, etc. is doing very, very well, by the way. It's just in the private sector, people are not buying a new EV. And why would you? Why would a private individual go into a dealership and buy a new EV? In fact, since I first started talking about EVs, I said lease it and don't buy it, because the market's going to be flooded with used stuff when all the leases and salary sacrifice and company cars all come to the end of their 2 or 3 year lease. There won't be enough people to buy them used, so used prices are going to be really cheap. And that's what's happened. Anyone could see it was going to happen. And obviously, as soon as the new technology comes out, let's say you've got an EV6 now, and the EV3's cheap, it's got loads and loads of range. What does that do to the value of your EV6? By leasing the cars new, you're protecting yourself from that. And by the time they get to the used market after 2 or 3 years, they've usually lost enough of their value for it to no longer be such a concern. And you probably can invest your cash into it at that point, or just lease another one. Cazoo was finally appointed administrators. Firm spent 1.4 billion of investors' cash in 5 years. It's recently abandoned its signature home delivery service. It decided it was going to become basically a rival to Auto Trader. I've done another video on this and lots of people actually watched that, so you probably already know about this, but Cazoo has seemingly completely gone now. BYD aims to replace Routemaster with a 400-mile EV London bus. The BD11 has a battery capacity of 532 kilowatt hours. That's getting on for 10 times what's in my Tesla Model Y. The largest of any commercial EV currently available in the UK. It's going to charge at 500 kilowatts as well, which is insane. Do we need a 400-mile range bus? Especially in London, it takes you a week to do 3 miles. So I'm not sure they need quite that much range, but it's a headline grabber for sure. Recent reports suggest that London's Go Ahead Transport Group is set to award BYD a contract to build more than 100 buses at around about 400 grand each, which is said to be around 100 grand cheaper than UK's competitors' buses. BYD's already supplied buses to Go Ahead, working in partnership with British manufacturer Alexander Dennis, but now operates independently and will ship the buses from China. So there we go, there's more money going straight out of the UK. JLR to assemble Range Rover and Range Rover Sport models in India. It'll be the first time the brand's luxury SUV has been produced outside of the UK. To be honest, like, you could say that with the quality control issues and things that have been going on, maybe it's been put together by cowboys, so why not try the Indians instead? I don't mean that, by the way, it's just a joke, but I'm sure they're fantastic people that work there and actually assemble the vehicles. It's what they're assembling that's been the problem. The amount of electrical issues that continue to plague JLR vehicles is a little bit embarrassing, if we're honest, is it not? And when I do those reliability surveys, there are always lots of people that come back and say, well, if you just keep the car properly serviced, you won't have any problems. Changing the oil and filters won't stop the ECU from pooing itself. Unfortunately, that's the thing that seems to keep letting them down year after year after year. I'm not going to go into this article, but Autocar have come up with the motoring issues that will influence the 4th of July general election. Obviously, we do have that election looming now, and motoring issues could be a key vote grabber. There's a lot of unpopular stuff that's going on at the moment, and everyone's got very sort of partisan over motoring issues, and it only seems natural that the political parties will jump onto that, try and grab votes with it, and then not do what they promised they would. That's how it usually goes down. But yeah, it's quite an interesting article if you want to have a read. Prices of used electric cars approach ICE equivalents. The average 2 to 4 year old EV is now worth 16 grand, while the equivalent diesel is 18 grand. I've got a video coming out again in a couple of days about cheap used EVs. And it only highlights this really. There is some really good, cheap, nearly new stuff if you want to buy an EV. Obviously, if you don't want to buy an EV, you can still buy and run whatever else you want. There still are now, and there will be for donkey's years yet, used petrol cars, used diesel cars, used hybrid cars. They're not going away. You just won't be able to buy new ones after 2035. I recently heard from a man in his late 70s that was going absolutely loopy about the fact that he's not going to be able to buy diesel in 2035. And he's in his late 70s now. 2035 is 11 years away. Now, if he's still with us in 2035, at which time he'll be 89, which I hope he is, by the way. I hope he is still with us in 2035. I really sincerely hope he's not driving when he's 89. I know some people out there still do. Oof. Electric car chargers are out of action as thieves cut cables. Cables taken for precious metals across the UK. Instavolt suffered 174 thefts from 27 sites. This is the equivalent of someone nicking your catalytic converter. But the problem with this is it doesn't just affect one car, does it? Like, how many cars could possibly have used those Instavolt chargers in one day? And they're all out of action until new cables are put in, and then what's to stop someone coming along and nicking them again? It's really sad that in this day and age, you know, theft is still such a massive problem. It continues to be, and yeah, I can only see that continuing. I think it takes some cojones, by the way, to actually go up to 150 kilowatt charger, for example, and take a set of cutters to it to cut the cable on it. I know it's not live unless you get the thing going, but I still wouldn't do it. BMW concept Skytop leaked ahead of official unveiling. The 𝘼𝙁𝙁𝙄𝙇𝙄𝑼𝙏 style coupe hints at potential replacement for the 8 Series. This looks awesome. Look at that. Wow. This is going to be crazy money, isn't it? I'm sure we're going to be looking strong six figures at this, but what a thing. BMW certainly stumbled with their designs for quite a few years, but I think things are looking very positive for the future. There's some very cool looking stuff coming out. So yeah, they're talking about this being an 8 Series Z8 replacement, and I'd love to see that on the roads. That's it for this one, gang. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you have a good bank holiday weekend. Please subscribe to my channel if you've got to this point and you haven't subscribed. My news videos are usually my lowest ratio of subscribers. Something like 82% of you watching this are probably not subscribed. It doesn't cost you a thing. It helps me out massively if you subscribe. So please give the video a thumbs up, leave me a comment, hit that subscribe button, and have a great weekend. See you soon.